This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Athletics.
Leaping at the wall, it's gone! A towering drive into center field by Rooker.
And 29 other MLB clubs.
A judgy at blast. All rise. Here comes the judge. Swung on, hit high, 50 to right, away back into the second deck.
Bobby Witt Jr. becomes the first shortstop in Major League history to have two 30-30 seasons.
Shohei Ohtani starts the 50-50 club.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to walk-off dingers to Hall of Fame talk. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of A's Cast Live, as we're getting you ready for A's baseball coming your way in 2 hours, of course, here on A's Cast and on Talk 650 KSTE in Sacramento. Hello to everybody who's watching us on X. Some of us call it Twitter, and of course on YouTube. Got a great show for you today. Coming up here at 10:30, the great Joe Rudi, the three-time World Series champion. Another honor for him in his illustrious career, as he has been nominated and will be going in now to the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame to join some of the greatest athletes and some of the biggest legends in the history of Bay Area sports. It's a who's who that is in that Hall of Fame. So we will talk to Joe Rudi coming up here at 10:30. Daniel Susac. We want to get some of the players that we want to get them in now, because at some point they will be leaving camp. So Daniel Susac, a number one pick by the Athletics out of the University of Arizona, and from around Sacramento, right?
Roseville, I believe.
Yeah.
Roseville.
So Daniel Susac is going to join us as he'll talk about his journey and potentially making it to the big club this year, what that would mean for him and his family, as everybody is in and around the Sacramento area. And then Max Muncy, who will be in Sacramento this year, maybe as an Aviator, but at some point also as an A. Max Muncy will be up this year and battled some injury issues, but if there is some type of rotation in the infield for the Athletics and Muncy goes down, now, of course, at this point could still make the big club, but if he doesn't, it is my belief that we will see Max Muncy, another former top pick for the Athletics. The top picks are all coming. They're all growing up in front of our eyes. So we want to play Max Muncy because it's funny. Max was a high school kid, and whenever you're a first-round pick or a top pick, you would come to the Coliseum, you'd sign your contract, they'd have a little presser with the media, then you would suit up in the clubhouse. They get a locker for you in the clubhouse. You'd go out and you take BP, and after you take BP, you then come to us, and we would be your first interview. And it's funny to watch these guys from that day that they signed to where they are now, including a guy that I don't know how you, by the way, good morning, Commander.
Good morning to you, Towny.
I don't know how you've hitched your wagon to Logan Davidson. I don't know.
He had a big hit yesterday.
Well, I mean, when the center fielder doesn't see it, that's a great thing. Looks good in the scorebook. That's all that matters. But hey, Logan Davidson, who first-round pick out of Clemson.
2019.
Comes to us, do an interview. Then that's when we had Scott Boras on, his agent. And one of the few times we've had Scott on. And since then, he's become an outfielder. But you know what? Played well at the end of last year. He's still around and still has a shot. But Max Muncy was Henry Bolte, a second-round pick who we talk so much about.
We still have to play his interviews at some point, too.
Yeah, he's going to be around for a while. I mean, Bolte, here's a great stat on him, by the way. Swiped 46 bags. It's hard to believe a kid that big swiped 46 bags. That intro, where we have Ohtani being a 50-50 guy, we still don't talk about that enough. Whenever I hear it, I go,
it's incredible.
Did he really go 50-50? That's insane. 50 jacks. and 50 stolen bases. Unreal. But Max Muncy was just like he's fresh out of prom. He's fresh out of graduation, and he shows up to us, and he looked like a high school kid. He doesn't look like a high school kid anymore. Max Muncy has grown up, and he's grown into his body. And who knows? I mean, that's the fun thing about when you do these shows in spring training is what will the team look like? Well, what you start with, because I always write down the 25-man roster, now 26, of course. I write it down. I keep a notepad throughout the season of stuff that we talk about on the show or ideas that I have from the post-game show and it's a running thing throughout the year, and I'll go through a couple pads, but the initial pad will have our roster, and it is amazing how fast that roster changes throughout the entire year. It absolutely changes, and it changes fast. Last year, the Athletics were the team to go the longest with the same 13 pitchers. Now, think about that. Team got out to a decent start, and we're like, hey, things are going. And then all of a sudden, it kind of fell off a cliff. But the A's did not change the pitching staff. Out of the 30 teams, held on to their 13 the longest. And then the revolving door happens. Well, that's why you want to talk to people like Daniel Susac. That's why you want to talk to Max Muncy, right? We've played a lot of, looking at the list that you sent me of what we haven't played yet, we've gone through pretty much all the starters. Especially if you were able to watch our shows, you can always go back on YouTube and watch our shows from the first part of spring training where we did a 3-hour show and then two 2-hour shows. So you're able to see all the starters. Well, now these are the guys, we're going to play some of the guys that they're going to factor in this season. How good you're going to be is how good your 40-man roster is going to be. How strong is your 40-man? When somebody goes down or somebody is struggling, is there somebody that can come up and help you compete and help you win games? So we will get into that with Daniel Susac and Max Muncy, and it's always great to check in with the future because the baby A's are the future. And as you said, we still have to talk to Henry Bolte. Is there any other of the young guys that we haven't got to yet? We haven't got to JT Ginn.
Brady Basso.
Yeah, these guys, JT Ginn, they're not really the babies, but they're guys that are definitely going to be a part of the pitching depth. I took a picture off MLB Network like moments ago. You have an article about the deferred money of the Los Angeles Dodgers. There was a very interesting, it's not an interesting article. What was in the article that to me was fascinating about an old partner of mine on local sports talk back in the Bay Area complaining that the Giants aren't airing all of their games on television or some form of streaming that people can watch. Larry Baer has a comment about the Dodgers in there. What is Larry Baer's title? Is he still president?
Yeah, I believe so.
Right. So Larry Baer, the president, has a quote in there that we'll get to about the Dodgers because there's an article about the deferred money, and it's people do not realize.
President and CEO of the San Francisco Giants.
People do not realize the ridiculous contract Time Warner gave the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I've talked about it with the Phillies because we know the Phillies number. But the Dodgers number is crazy. Like when people go, look how much money they're spending. They want to win. It's like they're spending just their TV money. Their TV deal every year is over $300 million. It's crazy. Like Time Warner was a bad deal for a while because most people in Los Angeles could not get it. But now that's corrected itself. But yeah, they're getting over $300 million a year in television money. So it's not like they're really out, and hell, they're not even spending that money anyway because they're deferring all the money anyway. But we'll get into that. I wanted to start today. There's two things that I really want to get into. One is a scout has made a comment about our own Jacob Wilson. Now, Jacob Wilson last year in 208 at-bats in 3 different minor league levels hit .433. And we have really followed his journey from Grand Canyon to being the number 1 pick by the Athletics to we would talk to him at each level. We'd bring him on the show. He is a really bright kid. He's one of those guys you always look over. He's got a big smile on his face. He looks like the type of guy that in the clubhouse is going to be great for everybody, brings a great attitude every single day. Obviously, his father, a longtime shortstop in Major League Baseball, so he's been around it. But he's a fun-loving guy, right? He's not coming in. He's not Cody coming in pissed off every day. He's coming in a happy-go-lucky guy.
Some would say I have an edge, but that's okay.
Yeah, you've got that, you grew up in Pittsburgh and life's miserable. This is not him. He grew up in Southern California, spent a lot of time in Arizona, so life's been really good.
Different lifestyles for sure.
So it says, Jacob, so a lot of teams want to see their shortstop. Talking about the A's. This is a scout's take. It is Tuesday, Hot Take Tuesday.
It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday?
We're already on Wednesday. We're hump day, as they say.
I've kind of lost track of days. I mean, I've been home, but I was there for a week. And when you're in a hotel for a week and going to games, you lose track of what's the difference between Monday, Tuesday, Friday? They're all the same.
That's what happens when you have to go all the way out to Surprise, Arizona.
I mean, every game starts at 1 there. I mean, life is it's like Groundhog Day. Spring training is really like Groundhog Day. Clubhouse opens early, game starts at 1, have dinner, go to sleep, do it all over again. And again, and again, and again. But anyway, a lot of teams want to see what their shortstop does in big leagues because of his extreme contact-oriented profile. Not a lot of players are doing it like that anymore. Well, no S-bomb, because no one hits for average anymore, and I watch a bunch of guys strike out, and they're terrible. Extreme contact-oriented profile. Isn't the point to hit the baseball when you go up and you have an at-bat? Isn't that the point? Isn't that what you want to do? Don't we want to watch people not strike out and put the ball in play? Right? Isn't that crazy? That we have gotten to a point that we rather see a guy maybe get a hit every 2 to maybe 1 time every 10 at-bats. But if one's a home run, we like him. I mean, it's just, how can we continue to watch guys? There's a whole thing. We're playing the Mariners today, and I have this thing on the Seattle Mariners that the Seattle Mariners, whose pitching is phenomenal, their offense last year, they just didn't strike out a lot. The Seattle Mariners were historic striking out last year. Where you're like, wait a minute. How do we have all of this technology? We have all this data. We have all this ability to supposedly make players better. We have all of these labs, because Driveline just doesn't do pitching. They do hitting too. We have all these expert hitting coaches that these players are paying thousands of dollars to make these guys better. And I'm going to tell you, the numbers are crazy how much they struck out last year. Let me get it for you here. Despite their more than decent pitching in 2024, the Mariners came up short, finishing 1 game behind the Tigers for the AL West wildcard spot. Now, think about that. The Tigers, who had no starting pitching, who are just like A.J. Hinch walks in the clubhouse every day and goes, who can go?
Except for Scooble.
I mean, he had no pitching. He literally walked in every day and said, hey, anybody, what can you give me today? You can give me 3. You can give me 2. I mean, you want to talk about duct taping a starting staff?
Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable. You lost to those guys when you have a stable of thoroughbred starters. Why? Mostly because their batters struck out 1,625 times. How many games did we play?
162.
1,625 times. That's not only a Mariner record. Where do you think that ranks in baseball history? The history of the game.
3rd most all time?
You're close.
2nd?
2nd all time.
Who was number 1?
No clue. But You have that team with those starters, and you struck out the second most in the history of baseball. Maybe if they had some more Jacob Wilsons, things would have been a little bit different. Now they think life is going to be better. Now you're going to have Randy Arozarena in there. You're going to, but Edgar Martinez. By the way, Edgar Martinez is no longer the hitting coach he's going to be like the supervisor. Kevin Seitzer, the old Royal, is going to be their hitting coach.
Dan Wilson back as manager, right? So
Dan Wilson is there. He had the interim tag, was really not there. But Julio Rodriguez they're selling the last couple weeks. Hey, with Edgar, Julio the last couple weeks got hot.
Yeah, and you want to mention how bad the Mariners were when it came to striking out, and they were a team that was trying to make the playoffs. Arguably the worst team in baseball last year, the Colorado Rockies, were 8 strikeouts behind them. There's a reason why they are one of the worst teams in baseball, and then it shows you how bad the Mariners' offense was with that pitching and their ability to strike out all the time. It's alarming.
But we're worried about Jacob Wilson makes too much quality contact.
There's a guy that makes a lot of contact, and you guys highlighted him on the broadcast the other day. There's a guy that plays for the Padres that's won 3 straight batting titles with 3 different teams. His name's Luis Ariz, and he makes a lot of contact.
His bat speed's too slow.
Yeah, he doesn't hit enough home runs. His career high in home runs is 10.
His bat speed's too slow. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, we should be celebrating guys who go up there and hit and make contact and make things happen. We as fans, I mean, can you imagine being a Mariners fan and watching 1,625? I mean, you're punching out over 10 a game. Is that fun? Is that entertaining? That's crazy to me. When I read that last night, it actually upset me. We should be yes, I want guys to hit home runs. Yes, I want guys to have extra base hits. Of course. But I want to see guys put the ball in play. I mean, one of the biggest things that we saw in the World Series, was it the 5th inning in Game 5?
Yeah, yes.
Whatever inning it was, where not one ball was hit out of the ballpark, and the Dodgers manufactured those runs. Judge butchers it in center. Kike Hernandez, his base running to second, and then the third, and then the squibber by Betts. Cole doesn't. I mean, putting the ball in play led to this inning that you said, look, you made the Yankees have to do what they're not good at, play defense. The Dodgers made them play defense, and the Dodgers used the fundamentals and putting the ball in play. They used good fundamental base running, smart base running, and they let the Yankees be bad defenders. And, I mean, the series was probably going to be over anyway, but it just goes to show the complete game. Base running matters. Well, getting on base, hitting, like, I get it. We want to walk. But, man, you got to be able to hit. Look at Brent Rooker's year. We highlighted that all last year. What was different about Brent Rooker? Brent Rooker hit throughout the entire season. And when Brent Rooker hits 290, I don't remember what the final total was.
293.
When he hits 293, it's a game of math. The more math you put into the equations, everything goes up. Brent Rooker became an MVP candidate by hitting home runs, driving in runs, but actually hitting and being consistent. When you hit 290, you don't have, 290 in today's baseball actually is pretty high for a guy that hits home runs. And that means Brent Rooker was pretty consistent throughout the year. There's no question about it. To where the year before where he hit home runs, there was a huge lull, June, July, leading up to the All-Star break. And then after the All-Star break, Rooker was hot early and he was hot late, but there were big lulls. He didn't have those lulls last year. And that turned him into one of the best offensive players in all of baseball, one of only 6 players to have an OPS of over 900 against righties and lefties. There was only 6 guys to do that.
How many guys last year, if you just off the top of your head, hit over 300 in Major League Baseball?
Grand total?
Yeah.
I'd go 8.
Ooh, close. 7. I'll give you the list real quick.
Yeah, give me the list.
Bobby Wood Jr. led all of baseball, hitting 332.
Yeah, so that right there shows you. Someone said to me the other day, I think it was in Surprise, speaking of the Royals who play in Surprise, someone was like, will we ever see guys? We forget. Mookie Betts hit like 300, 330 something when he won the MVP. There are still some guys, Bobby Witt Jr. is a great example, to look at his power. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. had what? He had over 40 doubles, over 30 home runs.
30 guy, yeah. 40,
yeah,
40,
so
45 doubles.
He had 45
11
doubles.
triples.
I mean, he's getting a ton of extra base hits and hitting 330. It is still possible.
So Bobby Witt, 332. Then Vlad Guerrero Jr., the Toronto Blue Jays, 323. Then Aaron Judge, 322. Luis Suarez.
Aaron Judge hitting that at his size is pretty spectacular.
And he hit 58 home runs.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Luis Suarez for both the Padres and the Marlins. He was only with the Marlins for a few games, and he got traded at the beginning of the season.
When did he get traded?
It was like early. It was like April, wasn't it?
It was at the Coliseum he got traded.
Yeah, that's right. When they were
he got traded on a Friday and hung out in the dugout. We were doing the show. He had been traded, and he hung out for the a lot of the game before he bolted down south to San Diego.
The MVP who went 50-50, Shohei Ohtani hit 310. Yordan Alvarez, good player with the Houston Astros, hit 308, and then Marcelo Zuna hit 302. The next closest after that, Yainer Diaz, the catcher for the Astros, hit 299.
So can we get away? I mean, that's to look at this quote from the scout and just be like, we're all going to be looking to see, because the profile of a high contact guy, like, God, we should be praying that we have more high contact guys for our game. Oh, wow, we're already up against it?
We still got a couple minutes.
Okay, because that leads me into the next thing I want to get into, which is the hottest thing of spring. And every single day, more people are talking about it. And that is the ABS system, automatic balls and strikes. And there was a couple things yesterday. There was an umpire in one of the games who did something that was really funny, and I'm happy that he did it. And I'm like, yes, more of that. Ken Korak, our Hall of Fame voice, always talks about, and it bugs him, and he's dead on, about how things happen on the field with the umpires, and they don't tell anybody what's going on. We have no clue, right? We see it in the NFL. Every single head coach has the red flag, throws the red flag. Well, the head ref will get on the mic to the stadium and on television, and your Pittsburgh Steelers are challenging the fumble on the field. Okay. We now know what's going on. He goes under the hood. They look at it, and then they come back. But at least we know what they're doing. We get challenged. I know if you're listening right now on A's Cast or you're listening on 650 KSTE, you don't see this, but major league managers, I don't know who was the first to do it, but they put their hands up to their ears.
I see Kotze doing the hand too, the hand or the earmuffs.
Well, it tells them hold on.
Yeah.
And Bushy goes to the phone, and Adam Roden goes yes or no. Back in our Adam Roden travels with the team. Adam Roden does all the video. We got to get him on. I don't know. Some guys don't want to really talk about it, but Adam Roden tells Bushy yes or no. Bushy tells Kotze yes, challenge. So then they'll do the years thing. And then they just go do it, and the rest of the stadium just goes, what are we doing here? So the fact that we now have the umpires turn around, signal to that we now know ABS is coming, but an umpire talked yesterday, and it's hilarious. And I thought, man, that is awesome. And then Max Scherzer. Old man Scherzer.
There's a lot to get to after we do Joe Rudi with him.
Oh, that's right. We got Joe Rudi.
Yeah. So we can tease it and then pay it off after.
Glad you get me back on track. Yes, this ABS stuff, how it's being handled is becoming fascinating because I'm going to go to other sports as I like to do because we get stuck in our own sport, and there's a lot of people who cover our sport who have never covered another sport. We're fortunate. Have we come from another world where we've covered and worked in other sports? So you see how other sports have evolved and they've changed. And I'm going to compare the ABS system to some of the things that we saw change in the NFL, in the NBA, Obviously, now being in Sacramento on 650, we got a lot of people who watch basketball with the Sacramento Kings. And then, of course, with hockey, we've seen changes. The ABA, it's not really apples to apples, but it's similar. Apples to oranges. How about that? But games have done things to help promote, I'm not going to say necessarily more offense, but it just helps the best players be great, right? Because we can bog down and we can clutch and grab, and there's a lot of things that we can do. You go back to the 70s and the Raiders just mauling everybody's receivers. I mean, seriously, you go back to those videos, you go, that wasn't pass interference? That's like a mugging. My guy, I've done a lot of radio over the years with the great George Atkinson. Man, George Atkinson, Jack Tatum, man, they could have been charged with crimes for what they did to some of those receivers in the 70s. Like, what kind of rules are we playing with here? I mean, just absolutely crazy. So we got some great audio, some video about the ABS system and Max Scherzer's reaction. Remember, Max Scherzer, yeah, of course, is going to go in the Hall of Fame. Tim Kirchin from ESPN famously said, I talked to a future Hall of Famer, Max Scherzer. But Scherzer hates everything, right? He hated the pitch timer, which obviously I think everybody agrees the pitch timer has been pretty damn good, right? He now hates ABS. And it happened to him yesterday. And Scherzer challenged, and it wasn't even close. But more importantly, one of the great A's of all time, one of the great players in the 70s, now going to be honored in the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame. A's Hall of Famer Joe Rudi next, right here on A's Cast Live.
A's starting pitcher Luis Severino joined Towny on A's Cast Live in Mesa and discussed his role as a veteran leader in the clubhouse.
For me, just learning from the guys that like when I was younger, Cesar Sabathia, Ivan Nova, Michael Pineda, Playboy Aero. So those guys teach me how it was, how it is to be in the big leagues. So I would try to do the same thing with those guys, if they need me. When my first year, I was trying to impress everybody, so right now it's just, trying to get ready for the season. So if I need to talk to those guys and let them know, you don't have to be 100% every time. You don't have to go 100% every time, When we need you to go 100% up there and pitch, that's the day you want to compete. So don't go out there and go crazy and try to get hurt and taking ground balls or trying to catch a fly ball that you don't need to. So just to, let them know what I learned while I was younger.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/AceCast. The time is now. Pitchers and catchers have officially reported to Arizona. Grab your sunglasses, A's gear, and get ready for some fun in the sun as the Athletics get ready for the 2025 season. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, starting on February 23rd, and enjoy the sunshine of your family and friends. Grab your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices as your green and gold take on the Giants, Padres, Dodgers, Angels, and more at Hohokam Stadium. Don't wait. Get your tickets at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring. A's All-Star Mason Miller joined Towny on A's Cast Live to talk about the responsibility getting the final 3 outs in a game.
It's exciting. The time of game, everything that's went into it is building to that point. And usually when I'm in there, it's an opportunity for us to win.
Yeah.
So just pitching with that energy, pitching with that mentality that I just got to get 3 outs. So it doesn't have to be pretty. I want it to be pretty, but it doesn't have to be. It's just just get 3 outs, hold the lead, get the guys in the locker room and celebrate a win. So I love it, and I feel like I just embrace it, take the role for what it is.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/AceCast.
The A's YouTube page is your go-to destination for A's video content.
Streaming from the studio, A's Cast Live continues with Chris Townsend.
You know you've been spending way too much time in hotels when all of your notes for the show are on a Weston or an Omnipad.
Oh, we were away for a while. You more so than I was.
Been spending way too much time in hotels. It's good to be home. Joe Rudi, you talk about a career. 3-time World Series champion. 3-time Gold Glove winner. 3-time All-Star. A's Hall of Fame. One of the most athletic outfielders of his time. And, you know, wasn't a Bay Area guy. Grew up in Modesto, but it's pretty close. So Joe was able to have his family be a big part of his career. Would go on and play for the Angels and the Red Sox. But it is such a huge honor because the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, I mean, it's amazing. The Super Bowl champions, the World Series champions, the NBA champions, the Olympians, all of the great athletes who have performed here in the Bay Area go into Bischoff. And it is such a huge honor. We talked to Joe when he became an A's Hall of Famer, but now a Bay Area Sports Hall of Famer. Joe, first off, welcome back to A's Cast Live. It's always such a treat to have you on, and congratulations on this honor, well-deserved.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I was blown away. I've just all the great athletes that have, you know, performed in the Bay Area. I was literally blown away when they told me that I got inducted in there because it's a great honor, and wow, looking forward to a new season coming up.
Well, you think about the times when you were playing in Oakland. I mean, at that point, the Warriors would win a championship with the great Rick Barry. You had the Raiders would win a Super Bowl, and they had so many great players. I mean, that era of baseball. Then across the Bay, my God, what you had with the Giants, that guy Willie Mays and McCovey, those guys were pretty good. Just you're joining all of these greats that played in that era. What does that mean to you?
It's huge. Like I said, I grew up, in a little town called Waterford, right outside of Modesto, there about 100 miles east. So, when the Giants moved to the West Coast, 58, I think it was, I went to bed almost every night listening to those players. They were my idols. And now to be in that same company with them, it's beyond comprehension. It really is. This young person from a little town of 900 people to get inducted in the Bay Area Hall of Fame, it's mind-blowing.
Well, yeah, 900 people, and we've talked about it before, but to this audience, and of course, we have a new audience as we're on a new station in Sacramento, Talk 650 KSTE, that gets all over the Valley. You're from the Valley. I mean, to have your family so close, so when you come from Kansas City to Oakland, so many people got to come to the Coliseum to watch you play, especially family members.
Yeah, we were ecstatic, my wife and I, when we found out the A's were moving to Oakland. Like you said, it was so close, and being able to have family and friends coming up and watching the games and spending time with them. And then, when we went on the road, my wife was able to go down and take our kids and stuff and go visit the parents. And it was what a great blessing, really, for us personally to move to Oakland.
When I think about your guys' run, it's one of the great dynasties in baseball history, but it's so funny how dysfunctional it was, how you guys against Charlie Finley and everything. And I feel like there was a time where you guys felt like you didn't really get your due. But now as you've gotten older and you think about being in the A's Hall of Fame and how we have celebrated 72, 73, 74, and now this for you, what is it like later in life truly to get the due? And we all remember what a great career you had, plus all your brothers and what you guys did, those teams winning 3 straight World Series.
I think locally, in the Bay Area, in Central California there, I think we were appreciated. And, we never drew great, but that was part of the fact of where the Coliseum was located and just wasn't that easy to get there. But I think when you still hear people talking about teams, they talk about the Oriole teams and the Pirates teams and the Cincinnati Reds. about being great teams. You hardly ever hear them talking about the A's when you get out of the Bay Area, and that's just always the way it's been because of our, back in those days we didn't have ESPN and Fox Sports and all the other things. So a lot of people, the only time they ever got to see us was in the playoffs and the World Series, and that that just part of life of living where we did on the West Coast. But I never felt unappreciated by the fans. We had great fans, the ones that came out. They were going back for some of our reunions, even the 50-year reunion. There's still some of the same people that were sitting behind the dugout are still sitting there 50 years later.
You can't stress enough how tight you guys were, the core players, because you grew up together in the minor leagues. You came up through Kansas City, and then, of course, coming to Oakland. I was with Steve Vucinich while I was down at spring training. I always call him our A's historian. He's also an A's Hall of Famer. And he was telling me a story about how Raleigh Fingers used to pick up Reggie Jackson in the minor leagues and would take him to the ballpark every day. Just really talk about how it was a different time. And when you look at all the players and how you guys grew up together in the minor leagues, and then once you got to the big leagues and you all had young families and you all hung out, it was a different time, but it was a bond like no other.
Exactly. I mean, it's like brothers, like you're saying. We all signed 17, 18 years old. Played in the low minors, worked our way up through, and we all played together. And, when you're in the minor leagues like that, you're not making a lot of money. So, almost everybody lived very close together. The only issues where we had, unfortunately, for the minority guys when we were in Birmingham, we sort of had to work around that. And, some of the places they tried to put Reggie, we just said that's not going to happen. And so we were fortunate enough to be able to have him stay with us out where all the rest of the players were. That's terrible to be isolated off by yourself, but that was just the way it was at that time in America. But yeah, we all grew up, and that's what I'm saying. People, we knew what we needed to do to kick somebody in the butt, or comfort them, or help them. We didn't really have a batting coach, what you call a batting coach today, and so we were each other's batting coach. Wes Stock, our great pitching coach for a lot of those years, was as much a batting coach for us guys because he threw so much BP to us. And again, nobody, the guys get down, you knew what you had to do to kick them in the butt, and guys got a little out of hand. There was no issue with kicking them in the butt for that too.
So you're saying you didn't have your TrackMan readings or what your force plate, what you didn't have all that back then?
Well, I hate to even say this because it's sort of among, guys that played the game at that level, is the more you hear people spouting statistics, the less they really know about the game. And that's always, I don't know, when we get together as players and talk and that kind of stuff, today with all these stats and crap they're throwing out there, it's still, it's down to the bottom line is, winning and losing and, what you got to do as a team to play and get the things done, the basic fundamentals of the game. And that's where, like when we had Dick Williams come in as our manager, he was really the first manager that really kicked everybody in the butt, seriously, and was a no-nonsense manager. You played by the basic things, bunting guys over, hitting the right field, the guy in second, nobody out, et cetera, et cetera. And so we played small ball, and that's why I think we were such a great team that when we got into the World Series where we had so many one-run games that we were used to it.
Do you ever get time where you just sit back and you reminisce maybe with other people or to yourself about the greatness that you guys truly were? Winning 3 straight World Series is absolutely incredible.
Well, I look back at the teams and you're talking about great players. Of course, we got Catfish and Reggie and Raleigh, Hall of Famers. The rest of us were, sort of swept along by when you play on a good team, it brings everybody's performance up. I always thought I was just a general, run-of-the-mill outfield player that if I'd have been on a different team, I might have been a whole different thing. And like I said, when you put all that together and the chemistry and knowing what it took to win and the right managers at the right time, We had a lot of great things that came together. We lost so many of our guys. I mean, that's the sad thing. Our reunion last summer for the 74 team was only 11 of us. But it's still, we get back together. It's like we never were apart. And so much history there, and we've enjoyed it so much when we do get to see each other. But we were just blessed to be there. We always think about, what if we could have kept that team together and things, I'm glad the free agency came along. I mean, that helped us all financially, but it'd been nice if we would have come, 3 or 4 years later where we could have had a chance to make a run at what we could have done with that team together. We had so many good young ball players coming up, Phil Garner and George Hendricks, on and on and on, that were ready to come in and step into their place. So, the organization was very strong back then.
Yeah, it's always tough to know, could have been 4 in a row, could have been 5 in a row, what that could have been, but celebrate that 3 because the 3 is truly amazing. How was your golf game, by the way? How was life down in Florida for you?
We're enjoying Florida. The weather's been great. Our kids are so spread. We got 4 children. They're spread out across the country. So, we travel a lot by our motor home and trying to go around and visit the kids, see the grandkids. And we've enjoyed it down here. We enjoyed our life in Oregon. We just got tired of the 20, 30 below winters and shoveling snow. So it was nice to move to an area where we don't have to worry about that. And like I said, we spend the summers traveling, trying to go see all the family.
Well, Joe, you're a very humble man, and you were more than just an outfielder being carried along. You don't make that many all-star teams and win that many Gold Gloves unless you were a terrific player. You were. You're a 3-time World Series champion. I think it's going to be great the night that you go in and you see all your contemporaries, all the people from the 70s, the greatness, and into the 80s that you played against, and the people that were also in the Bay Area playing all those great names. You deserve it 100%. It was a big deal going into the A's Hall of Fame. It'll be a big deal going into the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations, and always thank you for your time. It's always a huge treat to have you on the program.
I always enjoy talking to you guys. Can't wait for the season to get going. We got the MLB station where we can watch the games from back here on the internet. Anyway, I wish them good luck this year in Sacramento. I think people are going to be surprised at how well they draw down there.
Yeah, going to be sold. Hey, Joe, going to be sold out every night.
That's what I said when I heard they were going down there. I think they're going to support the heck out of that team.
Have you been able to watch any of our young outfielders, guy Lawrence Butler or J.J. Bleday? Have you been able to watch these guys?
Other than a little bit last year, what I was able to watch, but this year as the team gets going and the season starts, like I said, I got the MLB station so I can watch the games, and so I'm anxious to watch them and see how they're doing. I don't know if I'm going to ever, I have no idea what the A's have planned this year, if they're going to bring in the older players or not, but as long as I can watch the games, that's the good part.
Joe, you're the best. Thank you so much for the time, and congratulations once again.
Thank you so much. Still very humbled.
The great Joe Rudi right here on A's Cast Live. I got to tell you, ever since we created this A's Cast, and I've been very fortunate, to be the MC for some of the events for 72, 73, 74. I want to say it was 72 where we had this huge crowd at the Coliseum. It was a special event. It was season ticket holders. It was fans. And we had them all sitting there at the bottom of the stands of the bowl, all the players. And I got to go around and do the microphone with all the players and the fans and the questions and everything. Because, I've had a lot of people go, Towny, you remember? I'm like, what? No, I don't remember. 72, 73, 74. I was born in 72. I was not keeping score for the World Series, the Hares versus the Squares, the Big Red Machine against the A's when I was in the crib. No, I was not.
I am actually shocked and appalled that you haven't gone back and rewatched the game at least 7 times and kept score.
Thank you, Greg Papa.
Oh, wow.
Frame by frame. No. Well, actually, during COVID, we re-aired all those games.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And if you remember, and if some of you don't know, it was incredible because it was myself, Ken Korak, the great Ray Fosse, another A's Hall of Famer, but I think everybody who knows what Ray meant to, I called him the face of the franchise for a reason. I don't know if there was anybody more important than Ray Fosse. And the three of us, we got you ready as we would play to entertain you during COVID. We would play these World Series games, and we had Joe Morgan on, Hall of Famer, Bay Area Zone, another Bay Area Sports Hall of Famer, along with a baseball Hall of Famer,
and probably a Reds Hall of Famer.
I believe it was Joe Morgan's last interview because he would pass away not too long after that. I've never really checked that, but I can't imagine unless Joe did some stuff in Cincinnati while they were doing maybe some COVID stuff, but this was before the season started. Remember, the season started in July, Matt Olson with the walk-off grand slam. But we started doing that. It either was Joe Morgan's last interview or one very close to it. And it was an honor to have Joe Morgan on and to have Joe Morgan and Ray Fosse, because Fosse would join the team the next year. He was still in Cleveland at the time, but obviously Joe and Ray have known each other since, they're, young men. It was magic. It was just magic. And, learned a lot from Ray about those 70s teams. When you talk about winning 3 straight World Series and never really getting their due, because everybody thinks about the 70s. You think about the Big Red Machine who would win in 75 and 76. I don't remember that either. Like, I know about it, and I've seen the classic games, but I don't remember that. I mean, a lot of you probably listening right now or watching, you probably weren't even born.
That's the last National League team to repeat.
Yeah, the Big Red Machine. I mean, for me, the first year I really remember sports, and you know what? Kudos to a young Chris Townsend for not being a front runner, because I easily could have been a Steelers or a Pirates fan. Because the first year I really remember as a kid was the Pirates would beat the Orioles. That's the We Are family. What a great, fun team that was with Willie Stargell and Dave Parker and Kent Tekulve and Bill Madlock and those guys. And then the first Super Bowl I remember was Steelers-Rams. Vince Ferragamo for the Rams up against Terry Bradshaw on the Steel Curtain. 79. My first Super Bowl party was Raiders-Eagles. But yeah, so luckily I'm not like so many of these guys. When I was a kid, this was the best team. Or I could have easily been Steelers-Raiders. No, I mean Steelers-Pirates.
Well, but
I didn't fall for that.
Well, the Pirates haven't won anything since 1979. So
they were a big deal back then.
You made the right decision.
The Pirates were a big deal back then. Willie Stargell swinging that. I mean, when you're a kid, I remember going to see him play growing up in San Diego, and when the Pirates came to town, they were a big deal, right? They were a great team, and Willie Stargell seemed like he was the largest guy in the world. I mean, and he hit bomb. Old man Stargell still hit bombs.
Pops, as they called him, as Pirates fans called him.
But to me, that is so cool for Joe Rudi, because Joe Rudi downplays it. He was a terrific player. And you think of Sal Bando, and you think of Campy, right? Reggie Jackson in his prime, a young athletic. Because to me, I hate to say this, I first remember Reggie kind of as an angel.
Not an Oriole?
No. Like when I look back, like I like my memory is like, okay, like there was the Dodgers rivalry with the Yankees. I was still still little. Like Reggie was a big deal coming to Southern California. They were giving him part of the gate. That's how big Gene Autry wanted a star, and he went and took Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson, his first game as an Angel, went yard against the Yankees. I mean, it was Reggie Jackson. So my first really really watching Reggie wasn't as an Angel. I hate to say it, too.
Well, that's like saying you remember Jose. For some of my age going, I remember Jose and Wade Boggs as Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
Oh, God, that's awful. I know, but it's like it depends when you were born, and it's not my fault. I don't remember this. I mean, the 70s are not. The greatness of one of the best is John Madden. I think I sent it to you where John Madden goes, "Yeah, we're dirty. Yeah, what are you going to do about it?" The Raider way. By the way, the Raiders coming back to Napa to train. You know how many shows I did from Napa all those years working for the Raiders? That's the greatest training camp ever. Napa, oh my God, it's the best. We might have to go up to Raider camp. Relive some memories.
We did it a couple of years ago. I remember we did a broadcast for Ace Cast at what's the amusement park up there? Discovery Kingdom.
In Vallejo?
Yeah, we went there. I remember we did something there in like 2019, and then we went over to Raiders camp because that's the first time I met the great Vittorio DiBartolo, also known as Raider Vito back then.
I was still working. I was working for the Raiders at that point. That's right. Awesome. The good old days. But Joe Rudi, and like you said, what did he say? There was 8 guys left for the 74. And when Raleigh Fingers got up and talked to the crowd, and Raleigh Fingers said, "How many of you were here to watch us play?" I was telling Voos my Raleigh Fingers story about the hotel.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Still one of the classic moments of my career.
New audience, you can tell it.
All right, new audience. All right, so we're down at fantasy camp, right? Fantasy camp will be back, by the way. We'll probably be back next year. So fantasy camp, Raleigh Fingers and I are going to do a Q&A in front of all the campers. And Raleigh Fingers is coming in, and I've interviewed Raleigh. Like, you've interviewed these guys for years, but, when guys are in their 70s, I'm just and you, like, look over, and you're like, why is my phone ringing? Because usually, the last time I probably had a hotel phone ring was a long, long time ago, and we were getting rowdy in a room. Right? Why else would I stay in a lot of hotels, and the phone will never, ever, ever, ever ring. So it was like weird to hear a phone ring. That's how life has changed. You're like, huh. So I went over to the phone. It seems archaic to pick up a phone with a cord, right? And you go, hello? And I'm thinking it's going to be the front desk.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, how you doing? It's Raleigh Fingers. And I just remember just going, holy S-bomb, Raleigh Fingers is on the phone. He's Raleigh Fingers. He's one of the greatest players of all time. He's not only one of the greatest players of all time, he's arguably, and if you do crunch the numbers, there is not a better reliever than Raleigh Fingers. I give all due respect to Mariano Rivera and Trevor Hoffman and those guys. But if you look at what Raleigh Fingers did in big games and the volume he gave, it's unbelievable.
I remember when it was a couple years ago. I remember we broke it down, all the high leverage and just the innings, everything. Like nothing, as you mentioned, nothing against Mariano or Trevor Hoffman.
Well, his era was still all about starters, right? Everything was about the starters. Like if Raleigh Fingers was doing what he did back then with his unbelievable stuff, that was something when we watched the highlights of the 72. Whenever you saw Raleigh Fingers or the Dodgers, he was was he the MVP of the World Series? Hold on. He was MVP, obviously, in Cy Young, but I think he was also World Series MVP. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. His accolades are just unbelievable. Yeah, he's World Series MVP in 74. Look at this. Raleigh Fingers is a 3-time World Series champion. He's an American League MVP, American League Cy Young Award winner, World Series MVP, a 4-time Rolaids Relief Man of the Year. He's in the A's Hall of Fame, the Brewers Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame. He's Raleigh Fingers. He's one of the greatest players. And the mustache made him truly famous.
And then one of my favorite lines ever from Reggie Jackson was, when Raleigh was coming into the game, you can grab your hat and your coat, you can go home.
Yeah, think about that. Think about where Reggie ended up going, and what happened in his career. But you had a young Reggie Jackson in his prime, right? This was Reggie could run. He had power. Remember, they drafted him. Arizona State was a pipeline. Rick Monday was the first ever pick. Charlie Finley took him. Sal Bando was Arizona State. Reggie Jackson was Arizona State. Reggie was a football guy who could play baseball. But you had Reggie Jackson in his prime. He could do it all. He played center field. That's why it's like, you look back. To me, Reggie Jackson was kind of an older guy DHing for the Angels. But, if anybody's listening or watching, you got to see the best of Reginald Martinez Jackson as a true prime time player All those guys, the Captain Sal Bando, Gene Tennis would hit the home runs and become a household name, becoming World Series MVP against the Cincinnati Reds, right? Catfish Hunter is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. Ken Holtzman, who we recently lost, talk about a big game pitcher, how many big games he threw during that time. Vida Blue was a star. Vida Blue's on all the magazines. He's on talk shows. Vida Blue was an American sports star. Blue Moon. I mean, I don't want to leave anybody out, but Dick Green couldn't hit, but boy, could he play second base.
Gene Tennis.
I mentioned Gino, World Series MVP.
Yeah, MVP in 72.
Yeah, amazing. Just amazing group. Led by one of the great managers of all time. You think, they will all tell you they were a bunch of young hellions. And Dick Williams was like the dad who kept them all in check, right? Let's pause for station identification right here on A's Cast. All right, coming up next, we got some interviews, but we got to talk about ABS. Good, bad. Well, I'm going to explain why it's good for baseball. Max Scherzer, future Hall of Famer, disagrees. Next, right here on A's Cast Live.
The time is now. Pitchers and catchers have officially reported to Arizona. Grab your sunglasses, A's gear, and get ready for some fun in the sun as the Athletics get ready for the 2025 season. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, starting on February 23rd, and enjoy the sunshine with your family and friends. Grab your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices as your green and gold take on the Giants, Padres, Dodgers, Angels, and more at Ho-Ho-Cam Stadium. Don't wait. Get your tickets at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring. Athletics DH Brent Rooker joined Towny on A's Cast Live during his extension press conference to discuss becoming the face of the franchise.
It's been a wild ride. It's crazy. Yeah, it's happened quick. In a sense, it feels like for me, in a sense, it's kind of taken a long time, obviously, because it took a little bit later into my career for things like this to start to develop. But it's been crazy. It's been fun. I owe a ton to this organization, the people in it, for giving me the opportunity that I was looking for a while, and I'm grateful I was able to take advantage of it and get to this point.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/AceCast.
Single game tickets are now on sale for the 2025 season. Secure your seats today for opening week against the Chicago Cubs and lots of exciting giveaways, including an A's basketball jersey, a straw hat, and 3 bobbleheads. You'll be nodding yes to our Brent Rooker, Mason Miller, and Lawrence Butler bobbleheads in June and July. More hot ticket homestands as your green and gold take on the Giants, Padres, Yankees, and Mets. Get your tickets at athletics.com/tickets. That's athletics.com/tickets.
New A's starting pitcher Jeffrey Springs outlines the similarities between the young A's and his old team in Tampa Bay.
A lot of similarities in a lot of the ways, in the sense of like young guys, a lot of talented, young players that are establishing themselves or have, established themselves in the last year or two, and really finding, their way, their path, and kind of, making the adjustments. So it's exciting, watching, the guys throw, the guys hit, and then, like you said, competing against them the last couple of years. The talent, it's exciting, when you kind of have younger guys that are hungry and eager to play. Those can be dangerous teams. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/AceCast.
A's Cast Live continues from the studio. Here's Chris Townsend.
All righty. Quickly. A's baseball coming your way. Mariners and A's, top of the hour. Fangraphs. Who does Fangraphs have right now winning the AL West?
Texas.
Texas, 33% chance. Followed by
Houston.
Mariners.
Oh, wow.
32%. Followed by
Houston.
28%. Going back to 2016, none of the 54 projected division winners had a percentage as low as the Rangers. So what you're saying is they really don't know.
Well, remember, if they stay healthy, they could win the division.
Yeah, I love that. Well, this is my projection, but that projection is only as if they stay healthy.
If not, then I think it's Houston.
This football team will win 13 games, but if the quarterback gets hurt, then that's off the table. My prediction should not get. No, you make a prediction. Risk, as we talked about yesterday, there's always risk when athletes take the field. If you make you can't make a prediction and then put this is my prediction, but if something bad happens, that doesn't count. Well, that's part of the, it's part of the deal. When you go to the casino and you bet the over win totals, for people who don't know, they set win totals. I believe the A's will win 70 or 70 and a half games.
I have it in my text. I asked our good friend who works for ESPN what it was. I think it's 70 or 71.
Okay, let's say it's 70 and a half. 70.5. So if you bet the over, the A's have to win 71 games or more, and you cash the ticket. If they lose under that amount of games, obviously you lose your money. But if you bet the over and the A's have a bunch of guys hurt, you can't go to the casino and say, "Okay, can I just get my money back?" I mean, I didn't know all these guys were going to get hurt. No. That's a part of the deal.
I went and checked. Our good friend Joe Fortenbaugh of ESPN said, depending where you look, it's either 70 and a half or 71 and a half.
I'm taking the over.
Well, we took the over last year. It was like 57 and we won 69. So,
but I learned that I can't officially talk about this stuff.
No.
They're gonna, when we go to Vegas, they got to change this stuff. I mean, seriously, we found out last year. So on the post-game show, I got a bunch of fun callers, great callers. You'll learn if you don't know, especially all of our friends on Talk 650 KSTE. You'll learn we got a rowdy bunch.
Greg and Slow.
You always throw him under the bus. I mean, there's a lot of other guys.
Because he's a coward. He wouldn't hang out with me and Slow.
But there's a lot of people that we have. We have a great little family and a mixture of people, and I would always challenge them, but we wouldn't bet money because I thought money's off the table. So I would bet food. We'd bet steak dinners, or we had this big dinner at Hell's Kitchen up in Tahoe that we were betting. And then all of a sudden, something happened last year with gambling. And then they made us all, if you're we're baseball employees, right? So all the Major League Baseball rules apply to us. So we had to go through the whole gambling seminar thing again. And I realized, we can't do that. They say, I couldn't say my jean tennis helmet here. Okay, so everybody listening right now, I have the old school A's. It looks like Gene Tennis and Ray Fosse, the plastic helmet giveaway. It's from a long time ago. You want to know how I know it's from a long time ago? Look at the sponsor on the back.
Yes.
I'll hold it up for everybody. Ross.
Dress for less.
Ross Dress for Less. This thing is old. So I could not officially bet. I couldn't bet a stuffed animal. We couldn't bet anything. You realize that?
Yeah.
And I was going through this. We were going through the seminar, and I was like, oh, wow. So I had to tell everybody all of our little fun little bets that we have for food off the table. Can't do it anymore. I'm like, God, it's how about the no fun league? We can't even bet a steak? Really? On a post-game show? No one can do anything. And we can't tell you what to bet. So I can't tell you to take the over. I can't tell you to take an under. I can't tell you we can't do that. So, but at some point, I mean, when the team's in Vegas, seriously. The ABS system. I want you to play, and this is because I know only some of you will see this, but you'll be able to hear the umpire at spring training. This is an umpire who gets it. And remember, these things, the ABS system, the automated balls and strikes, someone's going to challenge, whether it's the catcher, the hitter, the pitcher, the manager. It's really fast. It's less than 10 seconds, but let's listen right here.
Well, let me give credit from MLB's Twitter page. Jesse Aguilar, Tony Gwynn Jr., Padres, Angels yesterday spring training.
Brett Sullivan going to challenge.
Ball call.
Brett has been expert at the ABS system. Ooh.
The call is surprisingly correct. 3.
Oh, we told you. Mike Malinsky, one of our favorites.
Oh, man. Mike Malinsky. How funny is that, the umpire? It's surprisingly correct, my call, being sarcastic. But look what it brings, the entertainment, right? We know the fans love it. And now the people were Jesse and Tony Gwynn Jr. just on stream.
I think they were,
because the Padres are doing 20 games.
Yeah.
No,
that was a video, so it had to be their actual broadcast. Yeah. I think they were just doing the game. Yeah.
Yeah. So whether you're listening to it, you're watching it, you're streaming it somehow. Folks, stream is where it's at. So you're either listening to it or you're watching it. It brings fun. It's bringing fun to it. And if the umpires play with it like that, that's good stuff. Once again, we're in the entertainment business. We're here to entertain you. Now, you're not going to be able to see this if you're listening right now, but we're going to play the Max Scherzer yesterday, where clearly Max Scherzer throws a ball. Alejandro Kirk does a great job framing it, fooling the umpire, making it look like a strike. It wasn't a strike, though. It was called a ball. But Scherzer immediately hits his cap like this is a strike. Can you play that?
Yep. This is from the Pitching Ninja's Twitter, from his ex.
Last year out of West Virginia University.
So as you see there.
And you can see that ball is considerably low.
Dan Schulman, friend of the program from the Toronto Blue Jays. This thing's not even close. It's not even close. And Scherzer's up there, animated, touching his bat.
Last year out of West Virginia University.
There you go.
It's not even close. It's so low. And then Scherzer after the game is like,
I got all the quotes.
I don't care. I don't like it. I like the umpires are good, blah, 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 blah. Scherzer doesn't like anything. Here is my problem with, and it always has been, and I've thought a lot about it, and I thought about it last night. We have figured out that it is a great skill for a catcher to change count leverage. What does that mean? Well, the data shows us, and you don't really need data, everybody knows this, but hitters are more successful when the count is in their favor, and pitchers are more successful when the count is in their favor. So if I'm a pitcher and it is 0-1, 0-2, 1-2, I have a better chance of getting you out, the data shows. And for a hitter, I'm kind of in trouble. But if I'm a hitter and it's 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 3-0, and now the count's in my favor as a hitter, I perform better. So a catcher being able to have the illusion, because remember, the umpire's behind the catcher. Sometimes it's not always easy to see. If I can, as we say, steal a strike or the illusion that it's a strike, and I get that called for my pitcher, I have changed count leverage. I have now put each at bat that I do that into my pitcher's favor. Count leverage. As a former pitcher, I love it, but now it's been so many years, I don't care anymore. I want what's best for the game. And when we talked earlier about Jacob Wilson, and we got guys that are we're playing guys that are hitting 200, right? We signed a guy who hit 190 last year. I mean, we see this everywhere. It's like, I want to get away from pitch framing. I want to get away from it. And I know that there's people that are in our game, and I know there's people who do what I do who are hardcore baseball people who will call me an idiot, and that's fine. It's not the first time I've been called an idiot, and it's not going to be the last time I'm called an idiot. But I'm thinking about, as a fan, what's best for our game. And to watch pitch framing and stealing strikes that promote less offense is not what people want to see. No one goes to the ballpark to watch pitch framing, right? We need, as a sport, and all sports, always need to think what's best to make our sport watchable, to make it fun for people. And I started thinking about, we talked earlier about the mugging of the Raiders secondary. I'm not going to say Willie Brown was a part of that, the Hall of Famer. What a great man, Willie Brown.
Old Man Willie.
Old Man Willie against the Vikings in the Super Bowl. But look at what the NFL did. The NFL, and this is not apples to apples, I get it, but just bear with me here. The NFL years ago, the defenses were mugging the receivers and the tight ends, just mugging these guys. They realize it's not good for the sport. How about basketball? Basketball. You had guys, and we go back to the 90s and those low-scoring affairs for all you people who are Kings fans. I mean, you got your elbow in the guy's side. You're grabbing the guy's jersey. You're keeping these great athletes from the movement, right? Daryl Morey was not the threes weren't happening for Houston yet. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson were in grade school. This was a different era of basketball. This was clutching and grabbing, and it was awful. And you were having games that were 82-78. This is the war of the Miami Heat against the New York Knicks, if you remember those games.
Wow, Jeff Van Gundy versus Alonzo Mourning.
Oh, my God, they were awful. They were awful games. And the NBA went, you know what? This is bad for our sport. Let's go to hockey. Clutching and grabbing, right? You had the Devils, the New Jersey Devils. And once again, I did not grow up on the frozen ponds of San Diego. I am not Gordie Howe, Mr. Hockey.
You're the hockey expert in the room.
I do not wear my sweater in a barn. I am not that guy. That's such an inside joke. People probably won't get it. But hockey,
it's okay.
For some reason, if people hockey, you don't play in a barn. You play either in a multi-million-dollar, now billion-dollar arena. You don't wear sweaters. You wear jerseys. You need to modernize. Anyway, I'm done with that. But remember the New Jersey Martin Brodeur, their great goalie.
One of the best ever. Not the best.
They had some type of half-court zone trap thing that they were running.
Yes.
I don't even know how to explain it. I just know they were doing it. They suffocated everybody, and they mugged all the great offensive players. And then everybody started doing it. And the game realized, wait a minute, we have these incredibly skilled athletes and skaters. They're beautiful skaters, goal scorers, and they can't do their thing because you're mugging them. And it's not good for our game. Like, we want to see, I want to see Lemieux. I could say Gretzky, Lemieux, all that, but those great guys of the 90s, this was in the 90s for some reason, all sports got into mugging everybody and we got rid of, offense was bad, right? Till the steroid era. But they made rule changes in the NHL. They made you can't put your hands on guys in the NBA. You can't stick your elbows into their sides. You can't do that anymore. Let the athletes roam free. And of course, the NFL changed and we actually started calling pass interference. And you can't get up on your hands on a guy early. Things change for offense. I know it's not exactly apples to apples, but that to me is what getting the ABS hopefully will lead us to, because I want catchers to be judged on one thing: hitting again. I want offense. We have teams that have said, I don't care if you hit because you're stealing me strikes behind home plate. This guy's a pitch framer. We now are studying the guys who are the good pitch framers. Well, ABS takes that all away. Because now it's not going to matter if you pitch frame or not. So basically, we have guys who fool umpires really well, and they become valuable. That's a mark against umpires. It means they're calling ball strikes because they're getting fooled by catchers. That's not good for the umpires. Doesn't make them look good. And now the ABS system is really going to make, umpires could be looking bad here on a nightly basis where you're going, you called that and that's not even close. And taking this valuable piece of catchers, taking the pitch framing away, You know what? I don't care what Shea Langoliers pitch for. I want Shea Langoliers to hit 30 bombs and knock in 90-plus RBIs like I think he's going to do this year.
I mean, at 29 last year, only one other guy in the American League hit more, and that's the big dumper, Cal Raleigh of the Mariners.
Wouldn't you say that teams have sacrificed offense for the ability to pitch frame from the catching position?
A great example, and a guy that keeps getting signed every single year, and he can't hit to save his life, is Austin Hedges.
How about Martin Maldonado?
Maldonado can't hit anymore. I mean, he never really could hit. But he can pitch frame and lead his staff. That's why he keeps getting signed.
So, and I know the names I'm going to mention are who's who, but can I get rid of pitch framing and let's go back to getting offensive catchers? Isn't that what people want to see? I want another Johnny Bench, Mike Piazza. I made a list. Pudge, Rodriguez, Carlton Fisk, your guy Joe Mauer. Joe Mauer won 3 batting titles. How about Craig Biggio, the Hall of Famer? These guys are all Hall of Famers. I get it. But let's go back to getting offensive catchers. How about a play on MAGA? Because everybody's been doing that. I got one. Make catchers hit again. MCHA. Make catchers hit again. I'm tired of seeing catchers go up there. They hit 212, 4 home runs. Oh, but he's a great pitch framer.
You know, there were 6 guys, 7 guys in baseball should hit 20 or more homers. Cal Raleigh led all with Shea Langoliers of the A's was second with 29. Salvi Perez, future Hall of Famer, with 27. William Contreras had a great year for the Brewers at 23. Ryan Jeffers, most people have no idea who he is, plays for the Twins. He hit 21. Then Logan O'Hoppe and Will Smith, both of the Angels and Dodgers, each hit 20. So those guys are all highly regarded. The only thing is every time you hear those guys, they all get mentioned, except for Jeffers. Every time you hear about Langoliers, he's not a good pitch framer.
Yeah, they're talking about pitching. I want more catchers to hit. We need more offense. I mean, we need more offense. And pitch framing to me, changing count leverage, and also teaching pitchers, you've got to be able to be successful in the strike zone. Scott Emerson, our pitching coach, talks about it all the time. I want guys who can be successful getting people out in the strike zone. That means you got to control your fastball. You got to be able to go down and in, down and away. You got to be able to go up. You got to go in on right-handers under their hands. Same thing for left-handers. You got to pinpoint the fastball all around the zone. There's going to be times where you're out of the zone, make guys chase, but you have to live in the zone and get people out. Whether you're throwing a slider, a curveball, a sweeper, a split, a circle change, whatever it is that you throw, you've got to get hitting is, what does Emo say? Hitting is timing, pitching is disrupting timing. That's what this game is. And you've got to learn to get people out inside the strike zone. And let's get catchers hitting. God, you look at these games sometimes and you look at some of these guys' averages and you're like, whoa. Cal Raleigh, what did he hit last year?
Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, he hit 220.
We're praising a guy who hit 220.
I mean, only one catcher hit over 270, and Salvi hit 271.
Salvi had an unbelievable year. He got MVP votes.
I mean, I'm looking at the top 10. Yonder Diaz of the Astros did hit 299, but I'm looking at the guys with power.
These are, you know, when it's only a couple guys, are called outliers.
Yes.
You've got a lot of guys who are easy outs, who every once in a while run into one. But they're great pitch framers. Like, we need offensive catchers. We need this position to get more offensive again, right? We need all these positions. I mean, you just look at the data. You just look at just the batting average going down, 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 down. And when that goes down, for all the people who say batting averages don't matter, that means all your other numbers go down, 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 right? Rooker started to hit on a consistent basis. Everything went up, 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 up. What was the difference with Rooker had infield hits?
I would say the infield hits. He doubled them.
Rooker had hits to right field. I mean, these things that he didn't have last year, all of a sudden he had, and boom, look at his numbers. They explode. So make catchers hit again. MCHA. How you feel about that?
I mean, I like it. If you look at qualified catchers, only one guy had an over an 800 OPS, and that was William Contreras of the
one guy.
Qualified hitters, one guy had over an 800 OPS.
And Salvi DHs too, let's not forget.
Yeah, I mean, Cal Raleigh, who hit 34 homers, drove at 100, hit 220, and had a 748 OPS. I mean, Shea Langoliers had Shea's OPS was almost the same. He was 738. And Shea catches primarily all the time. Actually, he does catch all the time.
So this ABS system could end up changing, you know, just not the balls and strikes when we think about, the umpire, but it could change the catching position to where we now go out and really look for some offensive catchers. Like you want guys like take all of a sudden Tyler Soderstrom, right? A guy like that where you may not be so as worried about pitch framing. You're like, hey, can the guy swing it? Because that's what's going to happen. Once ABS fully takes over, where you catch it, it doesn't matter. We're now seeing the Hawkeye, the technology for people who are just joining us. We say hi to a lot of the fans. Talk 650 KSTE in Sacramento. So we went to the system that you see in tennis. You may not watch tennis, but if you do, Hawkeye, you'll see the tennis ball comes down and where it lands, and you'll see exactly where it lands on the court. Is it on the line or not? Is it in or not? And so that's what baseball has gone to. So now what we're seeing in these early, and you know who's really good at this is Road Trip Mike, our great friend of the program. Road Trip Mike, who goes all over the country watching baseball games, he's seen the evolution of ABS. Johnny Dosco, also our play-by-play guy, has seen it from the AAA standpoint, but we've seen different versions of it now. And like anything with technology, you start playing with it, start using it. How do we fix it? Because right now it's awesome. Right now it's challenge. It's up on the board. Here's the video. We see it. Striker ball, move on, less than 10 seconds. So long term, does this become, it's like anything else. We're getting everybody used to it. People are liking it. What's the next step after that?
Liking it, getting used to it.
What's the evolution? Where does it go from here? It goes to being full-time.
Yeah.
Every pitch. So all of a sudden, we're gonna implement it next year. You'll get used to it. Everybody's going to love the challenge system because all of a sudden it's like, we'll get used to ABS. And then eventually, I don't know, 27, 28, whatever it is, you eventually go to it full time. Then there's no challenge system. Every single pitch, the technology's there. Is it a strike or is it a ball? So the pitcher, the Scherzers of the world can't complain. The hitter can't complain. They'll make the technology right. Everybody's strike zone will be measured out because everybody's different. Altuve's different from Aaron Judge. And we will know every single pitch, ball or strike, if you don't swing. We'll know.
And it also puts an emphasis on hitting again for catchers, and that's how catchers will be evaluated going forward. You won't have to worry about the catch framing. Like when you look at the Hall of Fame, people when you talk about the Hall of Fame now, people are going to go, Salvi is a good pitch framer. And this guy's a good pitch framer. But when we go forward 15, 20 years from now, when the ABS system's in, we look at catchers for the Hall of Fame to play during the era. It's like, he was just a good hitter.
He could hit. He was a force.
Like the thing with Shea, you can knock his pitch framing and his blocking, but the guy has one of the best arms, if not the best arm behind the plate as a catcher. And he can hit for power.
Oh, Shea Langelier's arm is phenomenal. I mean, he's got a rocket.
And he has good pop time, as they say.
I don't know. Shea, keep doing what you're doing, my friend. This is going to be a big year for Shea Langeliers. I mean, if all of a sudden, if Shea Langeliers pops out 30 jacks, I mean, Terry Steinbach's the record, right? 34?
34, yeah.
34?
Was it 34 or 36?
I think it's 34.
Let's find out.
Terry, friend of the program, A's Hall of Famer, wonderful man.
Terry hit 35, but he might have hit. That's 35 overall. I don't know how many. I'd have to go look at how many hit as a catcher that year.
So Shea's just got to break it.
Yeah,
and Terry would be thrilled for him to do it. That would be great to see. And don't be shocked if Shea is in the All-Star game this year. Where is the All-Star game this year?
Atlanta.
So don't be shocked if Shea Langeliers is an All-Star this year. I could see that happening. No question about it. All right. We got to get to some interviews we want to play for you coming up. We're going to have Daniel Susac. He is a Roseville, right? You said he's Roseville?
Roseville, yeah.
And we talked to him about being from the Sacramento area, be a big deal for him to make it up to the big leagues and for his family. And Max Muncy, who Max Muncy 2.0, of course, we had the original Max Muncy now with the Dodgers. This is Max Muncy 2.0, who was both these guys are top picks. and both guys could eventually be up. I think Muncy faster than Susac could be up with the big club this year. We're going to play both of those for you. And then we have a little A's baseball. Here we go with the Mariners. I don't know if you're like me, but it seems like the A's, whether it's spring training or the regular season, seems like we play the Mariners like 40 times a year.
Well, remember, we're starting the season in Seattle.
Of course. Why wouldn't we?
Is King Felix pitching?
Oh, hey, remember when, speaking of complaining about Jacob Wilson, remember when they said, I don't know, this Ichiro guy. I'm not saying Jacob Wilson's going to be Ichiro. But remember when Ichiro first came over and Lou Piniella was like, can this guy hit? I'm not sure this guy can hit. How'd that work out?
3,089 hits.
Broke all the hit records, most hits in a season.
I always remember his 3,000th hit as a Marlin in Colorado.
I mean, it's just like, we should be applauding more guys, because when you build a lineup of all power and no contact, boy, it stands out. Remember when the A's traded for Tommy La Stella?
Yeah, that was during COVID, right?
And it was like so refreshing. Like, oh my God, a guy that takes good at bats. Oh my God, a guy who puts ball in play. And then what's his name for the Met? Marte came over. It's like, oh my God, he hits.
That was exciting. He's still in bases.
It's like, I mean, he's not Ricky Henderson, but it's like, you remember what it was like Ricky Henderson. He gets on base and he steals second. I mean, you're playing the game the way it's supposed to be played. Instead of just watching a bunch of guys like a beer league softball team all just trying to hit jacks.
And by the way, you're right.
Which is, by the way, great when the beer league softball team is hitting jacks. When the beer league softball team is not hitting it out of the ballpark, boy, the games are brutal to watch. What were you going to say?
34 home runs for Steinbach. He
It
won
was
as a pinch
34?
hitter, yeah.
Yeah, so it's 34. So can Shea break that? If Shea breaks that, are you going to still be breaking out pitch framing? Stop it. Make catchers hit again. That's my play on MAGA right there. Can I own that? Make catchers hit again.
Patent pending.
It just isn't great, though. MCHA. All right, coming up next, we're going to hear from Max Muncy right here on A's Cast Live.
Single game tickets are now on sale for the 2025 season. Secure your seats today for opening week against the Chicago Cubs and lots of exciting giveaways, including an A's basketball jersey, a straw hat, and free bobbleheads. You'll be nodding yes to our Brent Rooker, Mason Miller, and Lawrence Butler bobbleheads in June and July. More hot ticket homestands as your green and gold take on the Giants, Padres, Yankees, and Mets. Get your tickets at athletics.com/tickets. That's athletics.com/tickets.
A's outfielder Brent Rooker joined Chris Townsend during spring training to discuss the confidence inside the A's clubhouse.
So it's a very real confidence. It's a very real optimism. It's unique in that it's a confidence that also comes with the knowledge that we haven't proven anything yet, and we know that people on the outside still don't believe in us, but we believe in ourselves and we believe in each other. And we are at a very cool crossroads of being hungry to compete, wanting to compete, and knowing that we can compete, while also being confident what the future looks like. So it's a cool feeling inside the clubhouse right now. Guys are working really hard. Guys are communicating well. We're talking. We're trying to help each other get better, and that's a cool place to be.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast.
Looking to stay up to date on all things A's? Head over to athletics.com/A'sCast. That's athletics.com/A'sCast to listen to A's baseball in full 24/7 coverage of the A's, only on A's Cast. With a single click, you can stream great shows, live pre- and post-game coverage, and of course, all the great action of the A's this season. Head to athletics.com/A'sCast today.
The time is now. Pitchers and catchers have officially reported to Arizona. Grab your sunglasses, A's gear, and get ready for some fun in the sun as the Athletics get ready for the 2025 season. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, starting on February 23rd, and enjoy the sunshine of your family and friends. Grab your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices as your green and gold take on the Giants, Padres, Dodgers, Angels, and more at Hohokam Stadium. Don't wait. Get your tickets at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring.
The A's YouTube page is your go-to destination for A's video content. Get access to great highlights, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, classic games, A's Cast Live, and more. Visit youtube.com/athletics.
A's Cast Live continues from the studio. Here's Chris Townsend.
Max Muncy came to us at a high school first-round pick. He's a shortstop, but he has made his way around the diamond. Versatility is key. Dealt with some injuries, but this year is a year where we could be seeing him in Sacramento, just not as an aviator, but as an A. Here is Max Muncy.
That's Max Muncy. How are you? It has been a while.
I know. It's great to see you again. I've been good.
So we've been following you, obviously, down in the minor leagues. I know last year you're plagued by injuries, but when you played well, and you're really knocking on the door. You got to be really excited right now.
I'm excited. We got a good group here, and I'm excited to try to be a part of it as soon as I can.
So when you come into camp like this, what have they told you? What are like the goals that they've set for you and you've set for yourself?
I mean, I've only been here a couple of days, so we haven't had those in-depth conversations. Okay. The vibe I'm kind of getting is just kind of be ready to go anywhere, all around the infield, and just make sure you're ready.
And over time, like we've seen you since the day you got drafted, right? You show up to Oakland, you take your first batting practice, so we followed your journey as a shortstop, but now you've been able to play all around the diamond. Talk about your journey defensively, because you know the more versatile you are, the quicker you can get here.
For sure. Yeah, I think at first it was really about development for me. Make sure I'm ready to go short, make sure I learn the position. And then, as you get closer to AAA, and right now it's where do they need you? Obviously we got a great shortstop, and we got Geloff at second, and we got some good guys at third, but that's why they're kind of, if the spot opens up, they need me to be ready to go at any of them.
And that's always so interesting when you're a top prospect and when you start thinking about what's above you. Do you think about that when you go, well, Jacob Wilson's at short, as you just mentioned, Geloff, and now Urshela's at third base. Do you think about that and where you want to start taking ground balls and working on stuff, where you could fit in?
I mean, not too much, because anything could happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They could get an offer for somebody they couldn't resist, or, I got to be at second, I got to be at third. Maybe play first, who knows? But yeah, I don't think about it too much. I just kind of have decided that I'm just going to be ready, and wherever they tell me to go, hopefully I've had enough reps over there where I'm comfortable.
What was the big thing you worked on this offseason offensively?
Offensively?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of been the same trend every year with just consistency, and everything about my game is probably getting shorter. Obviously, I was a high strikeout guy early in my career, just kind of a free swinger.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep that power, but also keep a little more consistency and cutting down some of my moves, not moving as much in the box.
Well, you start to realize as you go on, when you start slumping, you need to get some of the, you got to start not worrying so much about power and get some hits to get you out of that, and that's just something you got to learn.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some coaches that have helped with mindset on the way up. Bobby Crosby and Ed Sprague and some of those guys have played a big role in helping me understand how to not sell out for a home run every time, and, get my hits and accidentally hit home runs and not focus too much on the power numbers.
But I always understand that's really tough for you guys, because you know how you're going to get promoted, right? We know how, when they're going to say, how is Max Muncy getting to the big leagues, is they want to see the power numbers. So it's hard not to get seduced by that.
It is, yeah, but I know also getting up's a good mix of, hitting for average and hitting for power. If I hit 20 in Vegas but hit 200, my chances of going up are probably slim, especially because they know how it translates. I think that's the big thing that they see from me on the minor league level, is they're looking for how it translates.
Yeah.
If you're a 30% strikeout guy, you go to the big leagues, you're facing better stuff. It's only going to go up. So that's kind of my goal, is to have both. Hit for a little power, hit for average, cut the strikeouts down, so they know, when they bring me up, at some point I'll be able to survive, and I won't be a 35, 40% strikeout guy.
Yeah. No, it's
I'm selling out.
It's a great way to look at it. It's just the evolution as a hitter, and it really is a player. I mean, you just think of where you started as a kid coming out of high school to where you are now. I mean, just talk about how dramatically different that is. It's just the comfort of being in the clubhouse is completely different.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's definitely different being in there. It's just like anything. Once you've been around it long enough, you kind of get used to it. I'm sure a lot of kids can relate. The first time you see 90 is like the craziest thing ever, and then you see it 10 times, and you're like, all right, I could hit that. So that's kind of what it's been like in here. Like, I mean, I remember my first year, I was really nervous to be here. Like, I didn't want to say anything wrong. I didn't want to, like, go anywhere I shouldn't go. And, I mean, obviously, we're lucky enough to have great guys that are very, like, accepting, you know, in there. So that's been great, but I do feel a little more comfortable just around. I kind of know where I should be, what I should be doing, what I shouldn't say. Yeah, me and my dad talked about more of the performance side and not as much as the locker room side this offseason. And, you know, sometimes you just get caught up in the journey and, like, you know, you need to get better, you need to get better. And we talked about, he's like, man, remember, like, if you went to Stockton this year, like, how much better would you play? Like, look how much better you've gotten since.
How much weight you put on
That's
since
true,
then,
yeah.
right?
I've
Yeah.
definitely gotten bigger, but
Yeah.
it is, like, good for you to look back and be like, wow, look at, like, that was only 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and look where I'm at now.
Well, you are knocking on the door. I expect to see you in Sacramento this year in the big leagues. It's going to be great. It's always good to catch up with you.
Yep.
Stay healthy, and we'll see you in the big leagues later this year.
See you guys there.
See you there. It's a good point, right? When his father says, look where you were X amount of years ago when you were in Stockton, look where you are now. It's the development of an athlete. It's the development of your body, and it's the development of your mind as you learn to play the game at the highest level. You learn to take care of yourself. You learn what works. You learn what doesn't work. It's kind of the advantage that our sport has versus a lot of other sports, because a lot of other sports, you get drafted, you immediately go in, and you don't get that time. You know, most guys who get drafted in the NFL, they don't get that second contract. I mean, how many guys, you know, second rounders in the NBA? I mean, our sport, you get a chance to develop and learn as you go, and you get better, and you get older, and you get stronger, you get wiser, and he's on that path. It's so different, a college guy versus a high school guy, right? College guy comes out, you've played in college, you've been very successful, you've been at a university, you've kind of figured some things as an adult, and you're now being drafted, and it's time to start your career, versus we're plucking you right out of high school, right? You're a high school kid. Welcome to the minor leagues. Welcome to these towns. Welcome to bus rides. Welcome to these hotels. You know, good luck, kid. I mean, that's to go from whatever your living is. I'll just say, for most people, going from your parents' house to an apartment, buses, and hotels as a high school kid, and then going to the minor leagues is a big shock to the system. It's a big change, right? We talk about it's a big change to go from high school for anybody to go from high school to go to a college. It's a dramatic change in life, right? I'm experiencing it right now with my kids. It's a huge change. But there's a lot more structure when universities and colleges are set up to help give kids structure. You know, you go to class, you know, you have meal plans, you have all this kind of stuff. Minor leagues, man, they throw you to the wolves. And I've always felt like, wow, I've always been so impressed by the international players that we bring in, who we go, you don't speak the language. I mean, can you imagine that? You don't speak the language. Here you go. Hop on this bus. We want you to perform every day. And you don't speak the language? I mean, I've thought about that like multiple times. We've gone over the A's. We've gone over to Japan. And I thought, what if I just got, oh, hey, you got a job. We're putting you in Japan. Survive. What? How do I get around? Where do I go? What do I do? No one understands me. Like I can't imagine what we do to these young kids. It's hard. You got to grow up real fast. And the problem is some guys don't, and it swallows them up. And even though they could have been good players, it swallows them up. So the high school kid, the young international signee who comes here, it's far different than the college guy. College guys traveled a little bit, right? College guys have been on planes. Some of these kids, I know it sounds, I mean, most of these kids have never seen the ocean. Some of these kids have never even been on flights before. They haven't really left their little world. college guys, man, you've been on flights, your team travels, you know, if you're on a really good team, you've played on television before. The campus radio station at least covers your games. I mean, there's some sophistication to a college guy versus a high school guy. That's why we expect college guys to get to the big leagues faster than we do high school guys. High school guys, we got to mold them a little more, right? There's a lot of teaching that goes involved with these high school kids because there's the maturity factor. I can't imagine me coming out of high school giving me any kind of money and say, go on the road, kid. I would have been a zoo. Speaking of a college guy, Daniel Susac, #1 pick for the Athletics out of the University of Arizona. Yes, he's got a lot of ties. Grew up in the did he grow up in Roseville?
Yeah, he went to Jesuit, I believe, high school up there.
Here is catcher. He's a big kid, Daniel Susac. Daniel Susac is with us here as we're getting you ready for spring training action. Obviously, being a #1 pick out of the University of Arizona, we always talk about that and how well you've been playing down in the minor leagues and pushing your way up, which is the most important thing. But also, you're from the Sacramento area, Roseville.
Yep.
To make your debut kind of back home would be a big deal.
It would. It'd be awesome. You know, most of my family's out there, so I think it would be a great opportunity. But if I get the call wherever it is, it would be awesome as well.
Just before we get into last season, and I know a lot of talk not only about your offense, but about your defense behind the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Just talk about just the family knowing just how excited everybody is up there that the A's are coming to Sacramento, West Sacramento.
Yeah, I mean, the Sacramento area is big with sports in general. You know, the Kings last couple of years been pretty solid. You've seen the whole community really rally around them. I think they'll do the same about the A's. You know, you have a lot of Northern California fans there that were already A's fans. Now you bring the team closer to them. I think they'll be really excited about it.
You know, one of the good things about a top pick is when the top pick starts to flourish, you put pressure on the front office, right? That's your #1 job. Make them have to make uncomfortable moves, and you're doing that right now.
Yeah, just trying to be my best. Little streaky season last year, a couple ups and downs, which I think was good for me. I got off to a slow start, had to battle through it. But, you know, that's part of the game. Keep learning every day.
Learning from that, right? Learning from your mistakes. Talk about that because that's part of maturing in our game because there's going to be times when you don't play well. It can be offense, it could be defense. But talk about learning through those mistakes.
Definitely. It helped me a lot. Especially at catcher, you cannot take your bats to the field. So I think where I was proud of myself last year was doing that well. I think I took a huge leap defensively, you know, putting the time in before the game, scouting reports, going over stuff with our pitchers, individualizing the plan towards them was big for me, especially with my slow start. I mean, there was a little bit where I was like, I got to just keep doing it every day, slowly get out of it. And that's what, you know, it was. It was at bat by at bat, piece by piece, week by week, just slowly getting out of it and staying with the plan.
Yeah, one at bat doesn't get you out of a bad stretch.
No.
But you start taking it that way. It's like the gripping and you're trying to hit an 8-run home run every
definitely.
single at bat. And that is a tough approach, but I like what you said. It never affected your defense.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about how that can actually help your offense where you don't focus so much on the offense that it kind of helps you because you are focusing on D.
For sure. And I think that's where being a catcher is a blessing in that sense because if I played outfield I could go out there and think about my at-bat for 3 innings and not get a single ball. But if you go to catcher and you think about your at-bat, that first pitch will expose you. So it really makes you focus pitch by pitch every time you're back there, which I think is great for me. Sometimes I'll use that third out in between innings to let my anger out a little bit, throw it as hard as I can at the shortstop. But then you flush it right back to the pitcher.
Yeah.
You know, now it's all about that guy on the mound, getting the best out of him.
How do you think you've improved since you were drafted to where you are now defensively?
What helped me a lot when I got into pro ball was going on one knee. Being a taller guy, being on 2 feet, it's tough for me to get really low. So once I got to one knee, it helped me stay under the ball well, helped me receive. And what helped me as well, I think my biggest flaw, still to this day I'm working on, is my blocking. Just being a bigger dude, it's tough for me to get down there. But when I'm already down there, the balls that are in my range, it's just now when I'm on one knee, it's just putting the glove down. Where in the past, I kind of had to anticipate. And if I was late, now my glove sacrificed. So I think that's helped me a lot. And I feel like for myself, my arm's always been my best tool. And if I say I sacrifice a little bit being off the knee, I think it'll make up for it there.
Has there ever been talk about maybe doing some other positions, trying some other positions defensively?
Nothing for me. I mean, I've never done any other position besides since Little League. I think I played 1 game at first this year, but somebody was banged up. I think that was it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're not going to throw you out of shortstop?
No, I mean, I'm ready if somebody needs me there, but
third base.
I'll try my best. Yeah.
Yeah. Big outfielder. No,
for sure.
It could be interesting. Catching now is so fascinating to me because of all the different pitchers you have to utilize. Because years ago, the pitching staffs weren't as big. We've been charting it here on A's Cast. 2 years ago, we used in all of baseball, Major League Baseball, there's 863 pitchers. Last year was it 855?
Correct.
855. So that means
pitchers.
every single organization is using a boatload of pitchers throughout the years. Guys are going up and down from the minor leagues. You're bringing guys in off waivers and everything. So as a catcher, you need to know all of these guys. You need to know what they like. You need to know what makes them tick, how they do well in pressure situations. So tell us what's that like as a catcher now, and you get a lot of that in the minor leagues, getting a lot of different players, of having to know a full staff. It's not easy.
No, definitely not. But I think I'm pretty good at off the field getting to know guys. I think if you know someone as a person, it'll help you know them as a player.
No doubt.
And for me, I mean, you'll see it. Sometimes we'll all go golfing. If I see something that ticks somebody off there, it usually translates towards baseball. But what helps me a lot is those individualizing plans where you have, just for example, a couple guys at Double A last year. You have a Jack Perkins that's more of a four-seam guy, so you're setting your target high and you're working at the top of the zone. And then the next deal you have a JT Ginn where he's sinking it, and it's like, you have a totally different plan for the hitters, and you have to know your pitcher. That's a separate plan, and just individualizing it to each plan for them. So yeah.
Talk about data, because I know you guys coming from the bigger schools, coming from the University of Arizona, you guys were utilizing data then, but just talk how data has helped you from whether it's offensively, definitely defensively. Just talk about implementing data into your game.
I would say it's helped me a little bit more offensively. Defensively, you kind of know what you got on the mound. Obviously, you can use that to your advantage if certain pitches are weaknesses for other hitters. And then you can also, vice versa, use that for yourself, knowing how they're going to attack you on the other team. But what I think it helps me with is now knowing what type of slider that guy throws. Everybody always complains, the new generation talks about sweeper versus regular slider, but that is a big difference when one pitch is moving 4 inches versus 20. Is visualizing that in your head before you get up there. Hey, this one's going to be short or this one's going to be big. So then when he throws it, you've never seen the pitcher before, you can kind of visualize what that type of pitch shape's going to look like.
I'm glad you recognize the debate. One guy who's in camp right now, he's an A's Hall of Famer. He's one of the great pitchers of his generation. Dave Stewart. Ask him about the sweeper. He hates the sweeper. It's not a sweeper.
Yeah, there's a little too much for me about that too, but it's good. It's a good mental cue.
So the big thing for you is just to keep pushing? What's the big thing for you? What do you want to accomplish this spring?
For me, I think the biggest thing, I've always been a consistent player, and last year I was pretty inconsistent. I got really hot and really cold, and I want to get back to that consistent part of the game for me. What I usually do, my biggest strength is using the right side of the field. And I think last year I got a little too happy with trying to pull the ball, and it sacrificed some of my oppo, which I think helps me average-wise, taking my two-strike hit the other way. And so I think getting back to that approach for me, knowing that pull side homer will come naturally, I don't have to force it, that hitters hit pitchers' mistakes, pitchers throw homers, hitters don't hit them. So just taking my hits the other way, and if they give me a good pitch to hit, then I'll do the damage. So I got to get back to using the whole field.
Yeah, once, as they say, keeping your hands inside the ball, once you lose that and you get super flippy, pull happy.
Definitely.
It's foul pole to foul pole. There's a lot of space out there, and if you're only hitting it into one spot, you become very easy to defend, and a lot of rolling over, bad fly. I like that because you're really seeing the ball, you're really feeling it when you're driving the ball the other way.
Definitely. That's my biggest part of my game has always been ever since I was a little kid. It's using the right side of the field, and once you do that, they start coming into your sweet spot anyway, and then you can start, saying, hey, maybe I will get the ball inside. And then once you pull one out there, then they go right back to you, and it's that kind of game of cat and mouse with the pitcher.
Well, just so you know, we're all following you. We're waiting. We're waiting to see it. We're following you down there, and we still have high expectations for you here with the Athletics. So stay healthy. We always appreciate the time.
Thank you.
And hopefully we will see you soon in Sacramento.
Awesome. Thank you.
A lot of talent right there. And it's a big year. Because when you hear an athlete say, I can't get off to a bad start. So obviously what happened last year sticks with you. You always want to be in a positive mind frame. But it's hard. Like we've seen it with Zach Geloff, or you see it with people who have some issues from last year. They don't go away, right? So What happens if you don't get out to a hot start? Well, let's hope that we don't have to deal with that. But a guy like him can really turn some heads and can really put some pressure on the front office. Like all of a sudden, if he starts hitting, right, he really starts to hit. I mean, that's the great thing about the A's organization. If you perform, you get rewarded. We have known that for a long, long time. You perform, you get rewarded. And he's one of those guys that, you know, when you're a first-round pick, they're going to give you opportunities. They're going to give you every opportunity. Now, Shea Langoliers is the catcher, but that's where you make it tough on them. And then all of a sudden, if you really, really perform and people are interested in you, you become trade bait and you can get traded and go somewhere else. And I mean, you know, Jonah Heim. I mean, there's people are always going to look for catchers who can hit.
He hit in 88 games last year in Double-A Midland. He hit 257, 12 homers, 50 RBI, and a 734 OPS. But he started out hitting 186 in April, 182 in May. Then he hit 340 in June, 338 in July. Then he tailed out the last 2 months. But those 3 months there, May, June, July, if you can say somewhat consistent, I'm not saying hit 340 every month, but if you can hit somewhere like 270, 280 as a catcher with some power, yeah, he'll be here and be backing up, you know, and playing on days when Shea Langoliers needs a day off or they want to use him as a DH.
That is such a tough thing about our game. When you get off to a bad start, you then press and you want to get everything back now. Every at bat, I want to make it all go away now. And in our sport, when we talk about it's a game of math, it's steady every day, 2-3 hits, 2-3 hits. Don't go over. And it'll start to correct itself. But when you start pressing and you want to do it, you want to get it all back now. This at-bat changes it. You start putting that pressure on yourself, and that's where you get in the trap, and you start digging your hole even deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's where hitting coaches are like psychologists or pitching coaches, right? Pitching cut, you know, you get off to a bad start as a pitcher. You don't pitch every single day. So now every single outing, you want to correct all the wrongs. And you have to stay in the moment and you have to stay focused. And it's just about this pitch, this at-bat today. Easier said than done because human beings, we're not wired like that. We want to fix our problems now. We're all like that in life, right? We don't want lingering problems. We don't want to wake up every day and deal with the same issues. I want to fix it now. I want to fix my health now. I want to fix my relationships now. I want to make sure everything's right now. I want to not be at 186. I want to be at 286. Well, it's going to take a while. It's going to take it's a progression, right? And that's why it's so important for guys who are not happy about the year before. They can't press early. You can't start gripping it early because you find yourself back in that trap once again. So for him, you know, that's the struggles. And then once again, that's where your pitching coach, your hitting coach, they're more than just looking at your mechanics. They got to know the individuals. They got to understand the individuals. They got to understand they're teachers. You know, we don't think as coaches as teachers, but they really are. And part of being a good teacher is more than just what is the body doing. It's the best pitching coaches understand mentally what their guys are going through. Every guy is different, right? Some guys are super positive guys. Some guys are super negative guys. You got to learn how to deal with them. You have to learn how to deal with everybody to get the best out of everybody. That's why Scott Emerson has been so successful being a pitching coach for the A's as long as he has, because his connection with the guys is so good. If you're just a coach that's worried about, I'm just worried about the bottom line. Do you get outs or not? Right? Well, you got to understand your pitchers. You got to understand where they are every single day. I mean, the Hall of Famer, Tony La Russa, every single day. And he's told us on this program, and, you know, I've read it in multiple places, but I asked him about it when we interviewed him when he was going into the Ace Hall of Fame. Every single day, Tony somehow would talk to all 25 guys. Whether he ran into them in the clubhouse or during batting practice, he'd just roam around with a fungo. And, I mean, didn't matter who you were, star, non-star, he would make sure, and he did the same thing in St. Louis. It's one thing he said he learned from Chicago that he needed to do a better job when he lost his job with the White Sox is I got to be a better communicator. I got to be a better teacher. I got to be, these are people. So Tony would make sure every single day for 6 months, he checked in with every single player every single day. That's managing. That's managing the people. You got to know your people well. You got to know what makes your people tick. Yes, certain guys you got to kick in the butt and certain guys you got to stroke. But if you don't know how to handle your people, you don't know how to manage, and you probably won't be there that long. You get exposed. As a leader, you get exposed. As a manager, well, everybody sees it in walks of life with the people that you work for. You've worked for good bosses. You've worked for bad bosses. The good bosses understand their employees and how their employees work and which employee needs what and how do I get the best out of my employees. That's your job as a manager. How do I get the best out of each employee? What do I do? And the good ones, like a Tony La Russa, obviously as a baseball Hall of Famer, understood that. Dave Stewart's different from Bob Welch. Bob Welch is different from Kurt Young. Kurt Young's different from Mark McGwire. Mark McGwire's different from Walt Weiss. I mean, you're dealing with all these different people, but you have to deal with them all and you have to manage them all. And then you get into the specifics with the pitching coach and the hitting coach to help guys. All right, we are going to break because we're back in the radio world. We are going to break perfectly on time today. We have synchronized the clocks. Is that correct?
15 seconds.
15 seconds. Let me see. You
at
tell me. We've got
10.
A's.
10.
We've got the Mariners. It's Johnny D with who?
Great question.
Coming up next, A's baseball right here on A's Cast.
Of exciting giveaways, including an A's basketball jersey, straw hat, and 3 bobbleheads. You'll be nodding yes to our Brent Rooker, Mason Miller, and Lawrence Butler bobbleheads in June and July. More hot ticket homestands as your green and gold take on the Giants, Padres, Yankees, and Mets. Get your tickets at athletics.com/tickets. That's athletics.com/tickets.
This has been a presentation of The Athletics.